We should get on to our first topic of today. And we are obviously going to be talking about, if I manage to push the button correctly, is gambling streams sparking outrage. Now, this has been an ongoing discussion over the course of the year. In fact, it's not new. We know this has been going on for the past year, but things have definitely spiked within the last few weeks. The rise of casino streams and this gambling meta has kind of sparked an outrage over the past year, and big names such as like XQC, Drake, they kind of spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on these digital casinos while streaming to big audiences, claiming it's just for entertainment and for fun. People like Drake, by the way, I think was dropping like $1 million or $500,000, ridiculous amounts of money per spin of a roulette wheel. Like ridiculous amounts of money. Both, by the way, are sponsored by these casinos. In fact, Adin Ross, who's another content creator who is definitely in the gambling meta, kind of leaked his DMs, and we found out that he was receiving cryptocurrency for his sponsorship equal to $4 million per month. So we're talking big money that they're getting from sponsorship deals. Almost like you can't kind of say no to it, you could say. It's that ridiculous amount of money. However, a lot of creators, a lot of viewers, a lot of the community have kind of called out and said this is kind of very ambiguous, wrong. It's kind of that grey area. Ludwig and Asmongold, for example, they've both said the platform, aka Twitch, should regulate gambling streams more. In fact, some saying it should be outright banned. And many believe it's exposing young audiences to addictive gambling. And this is something that Ludwig brings up about one of his friends, even triggering those who have suffered with addiction in the past as well. So, is it time for Twitch to stop the gambling meta altogether? Chaos, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, like that's the thing. It's a very difficult topic. There's a lot of aspects to it. Since on one hand, there's even a professional league of gambling, whereas a lot of professionals around the table doing it as a sport. But then there's these sort of sponsorships that people take, where it's very much an aspect of they're not even really spending their own money at the day. It's money just given to them to then say, "Hey, use our service." That's the thing as well, since then you could say, oh, well, let's just make it a mature audience thing. That way it at least gets the young people out. But then again, you're grouped in with different types of content. That's known as mature content. Is someone gambling the same as someone who swears or someone who shows content that could be suggestive?
Indeed.
So,
and just to jump in, there was a couple of articles that wrote about the mature audience section. They themselves said that the mature audience option is just a single button. There's no verification that you are a mature person. Also, it's mature. What do you class as mature? It's not an age rating. They could put in the title 18+, but that doesn't stop a child from clicking on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing as well. Because then you'd say, oh, well, how do you stop it? It's either a button or you ask for ID, then people say, oh, well, that's way too intrusive. At the end of the day, it's a really hard thing to deal with, because bear in mind as well, it's not just young people. That's just one aspect of it. It's people who are also suffering when it could come to addictive personality things or anything like that. So you've then got to think, okay, well, how do we tackle that? I know, let's put a thing on their account that says, oh, you can't watch that because, you said you can't. But then if you opt into that, then there's a whole different load of assets of what happens if you unopt. And it's just it's a lot of the intricacies, but I think at the end of the day, it might be better to consider the options of suppressing it to some degree, at least.
I feel like there's nothing inherently wrong with gambling. Like, I personally wouldn't do it because, I enjoy having money, and I don't really like taking the chance. But then, there's people that do. It's like people that enjoy smoking and drinking, this stuff that is regulated in most societies. I think that if you're going to put it on the internet, you have to kind of... These people that are putting it on the internet, obviously, they have an impressionable audience. Like, they're doing this to thousands of people. And the majority of those are going to be kids, right? And kids are stupid, so they are gonna have some kind of lasting impression, even if that's not what you're intending to do. Even if it's just purely money based, like a sponsorship, you still have some responsibility, I think. That there's people watching you, and if you're like spending all this money and it is rigged, and because that was one thing, is that I don't know if it was FaZe Clan, I could be wrong here.
I know what you're talking about, the CSGO skins.
Yeah, so they were doing these gambling rings, and you can't. That's not what it's like. It's like a gateway drug. That's
Yes,
exactly
yeah.
the
That-
kind
and-
of
and-
thing that will cause it.
And that's a good thing to bring up, actually, because we mentioned about the various degrees of gambling in gaming as well. Because this is just more than just outright playing slots and poker and roulette on stream. We are gamers, and we know how much gambling has been in video games for a while. Although I would argue that there's kind of been the loot box meta of gaming has switched to the Battle Pass Game Pass refreshing store. They've moved towards either FOMO and Battle Passes, which people have their views on microtransactions. We can get into that. That's a whole nother debate. But
Bloody is.
the argument, I suppose, I guess, of like when some people say young people watching streamers are, it can't be a gateway drug. They play video games. That is a gambling gateway drug at the moment. Unless governments do like what was it the Netherlands have done and ban it. Like Overwatch doesn't have loot boxes in the Netherlands, I believe. Is that correct?
I believe there's some aspects of that. I think there's also like different aspects where even with Steam, like there's certain aspects of marketplace. Someone who probably know a lot about this is Cheese.
I was going to ask.
But like there's many assets about that. Like I know we've had a few issues like, oh well, how about we do this thing? Oh, I can't. And I was like, oh yeah, no, you can't. Like I think as well, it's even predictions on Twitch you can't do, even with the monetary gain.
Essentially, even fake money, because Twitch predictions are fake money. Even that has been banned in certain places. But I think none of us have had that quarry. Silver and Curse, we've pushed the predictions button before, or we've been in stream predictions. Have you ever thought, let's scratch my itch and I had to go out and get a scratch card now? Like,
yeah, no, like that's the thing. Like, because like I think as well that's just difference. It's just that it's a win or you lose. Like at the end of the day it's fictional points, but I think as well one of the differences that you can't really tie. Like the only way you could even tie monetary value to those points is with a subscription or by donating bits or anything like that. And even then that's still a loose tie. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, there's still very much a distinction between that being a free currency and what is transferable to real life as well. Yeah. Because I've said, hey, someone do a funny prediction. If I did a funny prediction and then it end up having real-time losses, then of course I'd be quite horrified by that. But I think predictions on Twitch is a different level.
Just to jump in and mention Cheese. Cheese has just said it earlier in the chat. I love gambling. I lost hundreds of euros for 20 euros of skins. And actually, Cheese brings out a thing. A fellow friend of ours, Beans, has... Beans, if you're there and you'll watch, or inevitably watching this later, because I know you, has... Like, I think we are one step away of holding a meeting with him because of how much his gambling is. There is a video of him screaming after spending, I think, over how much was it, like £50 or more to get a knife skin. Now, bearing in mind, I think he spent more than that.
I think it was more than that. Yeah, but I think technically
technically made his money back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the. It's
I don't see the appeal, man. I really don't. Because it's just pixels. It's not real. You could spend that money on like any, and I don't want to sound like some money guru, because I'm bloody not. Like, you do what you want with your money. But like, what? For me, I don't understand the appeal.
Okay, but as someone who has I like, it may be a bit revealing here. I know I have a gambling addiction. But I don't gamble. I purposely try and don't gamble. My brother is very much like, I would say, a professional gambler. Not to the point where he's got a problem. He is so into sports and aware of everything that, like, he's in it. Like, he's fully in it, and he's like plays the game and everything, and he enjoys it. That's him with sports. I won't touch it and do that because Tash will know as well. My partner who's in the chat. I have spent sometimes too much money on loot boxes trying to get a specific thing, particularly in Overwatch. When Overwatch was first out, I spent way too much trying to get D.Va skins because I was maining D.Va, and I've done that, and I've done it with Destiny too. When Destiny had loot boxes, I've done that too, and every single time it's something, and I can't explain it. You want it so bad, even though it's digital content, and when you get it, it is not satisfying at all.
Yeah, I think the aspect as well is the fact that you're like, oh, well, I bought this one, so my chance of it being this X in X chance, that means I'm now slightly more likely to get the thing that I want.
Yeah, that's true.
It's that aspect, I think, as well, gets a lot of people going. It's like, oh, well, I've already put in this much, might as well go for a bit more, you know?
Yeah.
I'm already beyond the halfway line, I've already gone past this point. It's that sort of aspect of trying to reason with how much you spend as opposed to thinking, okay, maybe I should stop as well. That can be hard for some people.
All right, before we continue, I was gonna go back through some comments. Winterfox says, in a way, loot boxes are gambling too. If you do the random numbers and also them not being shown, the ban of loot boxes from what they know is happening in Belgium and Netherlands too, because they think of them as gambling for kids. So I think that's the point of entry. There's there's like 3 elements here, which is the pure gambling side, and then going, well, where do you draw the line of gambling? Because gambling's in games as well. Mimi says Twitch has some very loose rules in place, one of which forbids links and referrals to any site that offers slots, roulette, or dice games. The issue is it mainly affects VODs and not live streams. That's true. If you ever watch one of Train's streams on gambling, anytime he wins, a video plays up with a massive thing saying, do not gamble. It's like, you will always lose. Do you think Twitch needs to do more on the sponsored stuff?
I'd say there does need to be some consideration for that, since when it comes to a sponsorship, it's not more of a person doing it for their own enjoyment at that point. It's much more, oh, I'm being paid to do this thing. They might think, oh yeah, no, I enjoy this, but the fact is as well, it comes down that there's probably a higher chance of monetary gain from their side. And I think the fact as well, if someone's being sponsored over and over again, and it's a gambling thing, you've got to understand that the company's probably gaining more than the people doing it at the end of the day. Which I think for me is quite concerning, because that then shows the sponsorships are working, which, you know, in any other game might be fine, because that's
true.
To that degree.
I mean, Silver, I'll put that to you. If they're paying that amount of money, like more than we've ever seen from like normal sponsorships and advertisements for things, it must be working for the casino. And as we know, the casino always wins.
Unfortunately, I don't want to get too into this, but in a sense that I don't want to be like all doom and gloom, but I really do believe that at the end of the day, that is all this is centered around. It's money. Like that's why, you know, Twitch isn't going to do anything about like
because Twitch is making bank. That's a really good point. Twitch is making bank in all of this. Like
money is in it.
Gambling streams are really popular. Slots are in probably normally the top 10 categories on Twitch. Mimi says, I think any gambling stream must have an advert, as in like the word advert, before being able to watch. This is an in-detail warning about the dangers of gambling and addiction. Any of us who watch Yogscast know when if they did an advertisement, they literally had Lewis standing there with a microphone going, this is a sponsored video! And hashtag ad is there in the title and it appears in the top. And you have to be very, very open that this is an advertisement. When I did sponsored stuff for Raid, I am like, this is an advertisement. It's very clear this is an advertisement. Carlos a point, Twitch should have some kind of forced overlay or banner for slot streams that are sponsored that make it clear that the casino have literally paid the creator to play. Good point, because many people who get sponsored for the streams, I'm sorry for the sirens outside, many people who get sponsored for these streams, it may have hashtag sponsored and things like that. But let's be honest, 90% of high tier content that we're watching, as in like, you know, the top level content, the top people, is sponsored content. How many times have you opened a video and it's like, this is sponsored by HelloFresh, this is sponsored by Manscaped, you know? So where do you draw like how are you going to differentiate between a random sponsorship deal to something? So you are literally watching an advertisement, like literally watching a full-blown advertisement.
Yeah, I think
it's a hard one.
Yeah, that is the issue really at the end of the day, because you'd say as well, with like a lot of like, you know, different slot streams as well. Usually with, you know, some different aspects, it's, do you separate the advertisement from a stream? Because technically Twitch is a gaming platform.
Yeah.
What would you call a stream about playing on a slot? Since the slot technically is gaming in a way, but it's a game of chance. It's not technically even, I'd argue, within like, you know, the gaming sphere that Twitch was meant to be.
Yeah.
And it's more just doing it as an ad, since you have the sponsorship and you have the direct feedback of it as well of someone playing it. So I think even as well, with that in mind, it's an aspect that even if you start putting up a sign saying don't do it, at the end of the day, eventually human psychology is going to go numb to it, and they'll be like, oh, well, we still won.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing.
I just to quickly ask as well, just so you get to say, like, do you think we're at a point where we're saying that Twitch should be a bit more, like, maybe Twitch shouldn't ban them, Twitch shouldn't stop them, but you think Twitch should make it more obvious that these casinos have paid for these sponsorships?
Yeah, I think at least awareness is probably a key thing, since there might be a lot of people out there who don't see the connection between a casino sponsoring something and that money being used in the gambling immediately being fed in and the winnings. Since if the winnings is from the casino's money, that might make people think differently to someone who's winning their own money. Because at the end of the day, if it's the casino's money, there's at least the disconnect between casino money and your own money. So I think it's more awareness at the end of the day.
I was going to say, last question, I think, to you, Silver.
Oh.
Do you think, because you're saying you like the fun of it, I'm not saying you like the fun, but you think it's fun, you don't want to stop that sort of entertainment elements of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think there should be a monetary limit on what is spent in a day by the streamer?
I could be wrong on
Or
this.
per spin, or per gamble, let's say per spin on certain things.
Per spin. I
'Cause-
think that it's, if you've earned that money and if you've gone out and done a 9-to-5 job and that's your money, you should be able to spend it how you want.
But it's sponsorship. We're not talking about the sponsored money.
If
Where
it's
you're
sponsored
literally
money,
having Drake dropping $1 million per spin on things like that.
then I to be fair, I don't think stuff like that should be allowed to be streamed full stop without a warning being like, this money doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the gambling company.
Yeah.
I'm using their money. This is rigged.
Okay, so I think, what about one? Actually, okay, this is the absolute last question. What about, like how if you're going to be a smoker and you get a pack of cigarettes, smoking kills is on the cigarette all the time.
Yeah.
We've talked about. I randomly got a boo then. I forgot to turn off that.
Wow.
Just before people do more sound effects. Actually, I'll keep them on.
Love my ciggies.
I guess you'll laugh at it. I'll save them next time. Do you think? We've said about hashtag ad and things like that. What if you had an overlay? Actually, we say it's on advertisement you can gambling. When the fun stop is at the bottom all the time, throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I think having something uniform to indicate a stream as a gambling stream would be good, since obviously, there's different aspects in how people do it. It might be, just a small theme corner, it might be a large border. At the end of the day, if there's something that's uniform, that is always signified close to gambling, that it's much better as a psychological sort of aspect for humans to be like, oh, that's something to bear in mind about gambling, as opposed to, oh, that's a cool overlay, oh, that's another cool overlay, that's a cool overlay. Something that is...
almost like a green box in the bottom left corner, which is the logo of when the fun stops, and and seek help if you need help, and in the chat, if you struggle with gambling addiction, regularly every 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so. So there's always a warning on screen, and there's always something that's giving you the point. There's
always something else to look at the end of the day, since unfortunately as well, I feel like that if you just get told it once, you're probably not going to get it. It's a case that if it's always somewhere within view, then it's probably much more likely you might think, oh wait, actually maybe I need to stop at this point.
Gambling definitely seems to be an interesting one. I'm going to keep an eye on that and see how that goes. Obviously, we've just scratched the surface of gambling. We've talked about gambling in video games, which is another big thing. In the world of television, it's the nuisance. I always moan at my producer, going, "Can we talk about gambling in video games, please?" So I'm going to do it on my own show. Damn it.